Soldier Boy.
Welcome back, everyone. This will be my full video for The Boys Season 3, Episode 4. There were a whole bunch of Easter eggs, WTF moments to break down, so if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. We're doing a giveaway for that Amazon Prime service. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and just leave your favorite moment from the episode on the video. The Boys is one of those TV shows that just keeps getting crazier. No matter how many terrible things happen, things always wind up getting crazier in future episodes. Careful for spoilers. If you haven't seen the episode yet, we'll just start at the beginning and work our way through scene by scene talking about Easter eggs and WTF moments. Starting with the episode title, The Glorious 5-Year Plan. The episode title is mostly a reference to the comic book arc of the same name, which itself is based on the in-universe Soviet-era superhero team Glorious 5-Year Plan, which Love Sausage was a member of, who they did during Season 2. It's also meant to be a reference to the Russians trying to use Soldier Boy's blood to give superpowers to other Russian military members, but as you can see, they only have one hamster who's still alive with Compound V powers. The whole thing with Compound V is that not everybody can take it and survive. It usually winds up killing most of the people that try it. But I did love all the jokes about Jamie the hamster that winds up killing all those Russians. Don't worry, I'll talk about that when we get to that part of the episode, because they kind of use Soldier Boy in a very Captain America way, like he's a parody of Captain America, but this episode uses him in more of a Winter Soldier kind of way where he's stolen by the Russians, like Winter Soldier was secretly stolen by the Russians in Hydra and turned into an assassin. That's kind of what's going on with Soldier Boy's arc during the series. It seems like they're going to try and use him as a weapon against Homelander eventually because of his ability now that we've learned to nullify other superheroes' healing factors. But the Glorious 5-Year Plan is also a reference to Stan Edgar's grand plan that he explained in Episode 1 to get control of the White House and basically transition the company to more of a pharmaceutical company, like getting rid of all the superheroes because they're not as profitable as just being a regular pharmaceutical company. The actual opening scene is of Mother's Milk watching an old TV recording of Soldier Boy from the 80s of this weird Vought TV show that they were promoting at the time with his funny hip-hop song performance that he was doing. It's meant to be a parody of William Shatner's Rocket Man performance and other performances like that where you have celebrities doing a really bad job performing a song or something like that. Like the whole joke is how terrible he actually is at singing. This is his family before Soldier Boy killed them back in the 80s when he was a young child, like this is him as a kid. They have this funny scene with Homelander going on the Vought-controlled VNN network with this news host. It's like an in-universe version of CNN, but because Vought controls the network, they basically tell him what he's supposed to say, trying to control what the public thinks and sees. But the other joke here is that when he's yelling about conspiracy theories, shadow conspiracies inside Vought, he's actually telling the truth because Stan Edgar was really controlling everything the superheroes were doing this whole time. The whole idea with the Boys is that everybody is terrible. Stan Edgar, trying to control all sides of the game, tries to get Victoria Newman to use her agency to secretly reprimand Homelander in public just to discipline him. Because you can't physically discipline Homelander, like nobody could arrest him theoretically, but I think the big twist in that is the way that they're using the Soldier Boy character, which I'll talk about in a second, because now they actually potentially have a deterrent against Homelander. This is also meant to be a reminder dovetailing with the conversation that he has with Homelander later, talking about controlling all sides of the game, playing both sides of the board to potentially win. Because Stan Edgar's real plan is to eventually control the government and just make the company more profitable. At the end of the day, Stan Edgar wants to do the same thing that Homelander is doing, just using different methods. He wants to control the world just in a different way, controlling what people think. He thinks that's real power, as he told to Starlight in Episode 1. Butcher uses Frenchie's old Russian boss to get the boys into Russia so they can find what they think is a weapon to fight Homelander, but the big joke being that it's actually Soldier Boy. In the other joke, bringing things back around, is that it is actually a weapon that they can use to kill Homelander, just not the kind of weapon that they thought it was. They have this big joke about Butcher using the CIA's clean American money to pay off Frenchie's debt from his friend that stole the drugs from her, and how the government will just print more of it if they want to show you that even though they're trying to stop Homelander from taking over the world, and Stan Edgar from also trying to take over the world in a different way, what the legitimate government is doing isn't that much better. It's also a reference back to Mallory's story about what the Reagan administration had been doing, profiting off the drug trade through the CIA and using that to fund their war against the Russians by proxy with the Iran-Contra incident. Like Mother's Milk revealing also during the 80s that the CIA used these drugs inside underprivileged neighborhoods, in ghettos, and kept them out of white neighborhoods, and it was this really, really sinister thing that the government sanctioned. Remember, it all comes back to the idea that every different person on The Boys is terrible on some level. They have this huge joke about A-Train trying to help the community by getting rid of Blue Hawk, but then they have the big joke about the Turbo Rush soft drink ad that he shoots. That's meant to be a parody of that Kendall Jenner Pepsi ad from a couple years ago that itself was just absolutely terrible and totally in bad taste. The whole idea here is that Vought doesn't care anything about helping the underprivileged. They just care about making more money at the end of the day. Which all dovetails with Stan Edgar's grand plan to turn them into more of a pharmaceutical company, selling the compound V to the military because it's more profitable. Even though it kind of looks like Butcher is going to sell Frenchie out to the Russians to get what he wants, I don't think it's going to take it that far this early in the show. But in the comics, Butcher really is that terrible of a person. He is willing to do anything to accomplish his goals. That's why he's meant to be just as bad as Homelander, just in a completely different direction. When they have the whole Hughie and Homelander scene with him learning the truth about what he's done, how he's going to make Starlight his girlfriend, when he jokes about having a key to her place and watching her while she sleeps, that's only partly a lie. He doesn't actually need keys to get into locked doors, because he's so powerful. But we've learned in previous seasons that he's not above using his super sight and super hearing to spy on everyone all over the place. So he really is probably watching you sleep. When he says Maeve can bend a steel pipe with her vajay, and then later Starlight goes to talk to Maeve, and she basically says kind of the same thing. Oh, you've heard all these terrible things about me, about how I get drunk all the time, about how I'm a huge slut. Well, I like people to believe what I want them to believe. So is them kind of doing the comic book plot because all that stuff is actually true in the comics, but on the TV show, they're just using that as sort of a front so that she can get at Homelander. May's also not lying when she's talking about how she plans on helping the boys against Homelander. When she says she'd only be able to buy them a couple seconds to potentially kill Homelander, it's because Homelander is so much stronger than her and everyone else. They have a couple references to that during the episode where Homelander challenges other people to use their powers on him. Like he even challenges Victoria Newman, why don't you try to pop my head and see if it works? Because nothing is able to kill him no matter what they try. Like Victoria Newman probably could not use her ability against him. It probably wouldn't work. That's why previously I've said that I think that Ryan will wind up being the big deterrent to Homelander long term. But now they have the temporary Soldier Boy character who can use his powers to nullify his healing factor theoretically, so that might be able to help them. But for example, they couldn't just give that temporary Compound V to a bunch of military members and squads and use that against them because they physically would not be able to last against Homelander. It'd become a fight of attrition, and eventually all their Compound V would wear off. They just would not be powerful enough to kill him. That's why they're trying to set up this whole thing with Soldier Boy being able to put a debuff on him, essentially just turning off his healing factor temporarily. Butcher makes an entourage joke when they board that Russian's private plane. All over Russia, there's graffiti of Homelander, the Seven, depicting them as evil, hurting everyone, because that's secretly the truth, they're all terrible, and the Russian TV networks also making fun of what's going on in present day with the Seven. When secretly the Russian military all these years has been using the blood from Soldier Boy to try and create their own superheroes. I'll explain that in a second too, because there's a reason why you don't see tons of Russian superheroes running around all over the place. The whole thing with Butcher using Kimiko as a weapon is more about him just becoming more and more of a terrible person, just like Homelander. The whole side plot with Kimiko killing the Russian is meant to show you how strong she is, how strong her Compound V abilities are. She can literally shrug off headshot wounds from bullets. Doing this to show you why Soldier Boy is such a huge deal, because at the end of the episode, when she soaks his damage from his special ability, her healing factor is basically nullified temporarily. Like, oh, this is probably going to come in handy against Homelander. Frenchie and her also talk about running off to France together, leaving the boys. They might wind up paying that off by the end of the series, if they both survive to the end of the series. They have this big joke about this Russian oligarch having sex toys based on all the 7 characters, which she winds up killing them all with in really WTF ways. The other funny thing here too is that technically she doesn't need weapons to kill people because she's so strong with Compound V powers. She herself is the weapon. Then back in the Tower of the Seven, Starlight telling Supersonic about half of their plan to kill Homelander is literally what winds up getting him killed later. I think the whole idea with A-Train informing on what their plan was is just him becoming just as dark as the other characters, and paying back to Hughie's comment to Starlight saying, we have to be just as bad as the other guys in order to beat them. Like everyone all over the show, all these different characters are getting worse and worse as people to try and beat the other guy. The whole thing with him joking about their former relationship, I think all of this is meant to be true. Like, he doesn't secretly pine for her or anything like that. He's just meant to be a generally good guy, so that when they reveal what Homelander did to him, it feels that much more tragic. I did laugh pretty hard when you see the Deep just dig into those tacos, just stuffing his mouth, right after we saw him stuffing his mouth with his friend Timothy the Octopus, R.I.P. Timothy. They have this big joke about the Deep doing anything to please Homelander. He's willing to literally eat his friends to please Homelander. The whole thing with his wife also telling him what to say during that to back Homelander's play when A-Train speaks up about Blue Hawk is also meant to show you how weak-willed the Deep is. Like, literally everybody on the show so far has been controlling his actions. He just seems like he'll do whatever anyone tells him to do. They also remind you that both the Deep and A-Train tried to do something with the boys to stop Homelander previously, so they both have a lot of dirt on each other and they're kind of at a stalemate. It's just that the Deep seems like he's in a stronger position just because currently Homelander likes the Deep more than A-Train. Then they actually reference the time when Butcher met Mother's Milk back in the military. All that stuff about him being in the brig, getting into trouble with the military is similar to the comic backstory, but the difference is that in the comics, Mother's Milk had Compound V powers himself. He still wound up in the military like the TV show version, but in the comics, when he drank his mother's milk, it made him super strong. That's why his name is Mother's Milk. Then the whole twist with Victoria Newman turning on Sten Edgar is because she's afraid Homelander is going to kill her and her daughter, and it's all meant to be true, like she is actually afraid of Homelander killing them. They reveal that she previously went to Homelander and preemptively offered him a deal in exchange for the Compound V to protect her daughter, to give her daughter Compound V powers. Homelander later jokes about this when he's telling the others about what's going on with the news broadcast. He's making a move against Sten Edgar for control of everything that's going on, thinking that he's in control now, but I'll talk about this in a second too. They just want to make you feel like he's won the day, like this is a temporary victory for him in this episode, but it's probably going to be very short-lived. But that's why at the end of the episode, you see her give the regular Compound V to her daughter, and it is blue, so it's meant to be regular permanent Compound V. So that even though Victoria Newman is a dirtbag, they want to show you how much she does care about her daughter. When Homelander comes to give Victoria Newman the Compound V in all those files of Stan Edgar's, he's not lying to her about Stan Edgar having contingency plans against her too, because, as he says later in the episode when he's talking to Homelander, he tries to play every single angle. But I think the idea is that he did genuinely care about her, like he did think of her as a daughter, it's just that also he's playing this four-dimensional chess game. He's a complicated guy, he's like the Gus Fring of the boys' universe. They have another joke about Ashley venting her rage, being super freaky with that VNN host, just having this super crazy kink, dealing with all the crazy stuff that happens in this really messed up way. To make a Family Guy reference, she's kind of like the Meg of the show. They have this big running joke about how everybody mistreats Ashley and she just winds up having to take it all. They have the big Homelander versus Stan Edgar scene, and it's meant to pay off the reference about Stan Edgar's plan to phase out superheroes, like, you may have thought that you've won, but you've won nothing. Loved his ultimate takedown of Homelander. You're not a god, you're just simply a bad product. All just paying off the idea that he really just cares about making the company more efficient, more profitable, and they can make way more money just selling the temporary Compound V to the government for the military. When he says no one is here to cover up all your mess-ups, saying that Homelander is kind of a stupid person at the heart of it, and eventually he'll wind up revealing his true hand to the world and go full evil Superman on everyone. My big theory now, because Stan Edgar's still alive, like he walks away very much alive at the end of this episode, is that just like during Season 2, he and Butcher will make a deal to work with each other like the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing, because just like Season 2, they both hated Homelander and they wanted a deterrent against him, and now that Butcher has Soldier Boy and they have the ability to nullify Homelander's healing factor, Stan Edgar will help them try to use Soldier Boy's power against Homelander. But then when they actually find Soldier Boy, Mother's Milk makes a bunch of 80s movie references. During Red Dawn, the Russians invade a US town, the locals have to fight them off. During Rocky IV, Rocky winds up defeating the Russians. And they find that Russians have been pulling a Winter Soldier Captain America reference by keeping Soldier Boy in cryo all these years, trying to use his blood in an experiment to give powers to their soldiers. That's literally the plot of Captain America Civil War, with Hydra trying to create some of their own super soldiers with diluted serum. The whole joke about the hamster named Jamie is that he was a test subject. There's a bunch of cages nearby him, so they clearly experimented on a bunch of animals, and Jamie's just the only one that survived. The reason his hair's so long is because the powers that he got from Soldier Boy's blood just helped him live way longer than normal hamsters, allowing his hair to keep growing, and because he's too dangerous for the Russians to try and cut his hair, so they just kept him in this reinforced cage the whole time. And I love the way that they pay off the joke too by having Jamie free himself in like this little tiny flying hamster that's super strong, killing the Russians with his powers. Hopefully this is not the last time that we see Jamie the superpowered hamster. But the reason why you don't see tons of Russian superheroes running around all over the place is one, because Stan Edgar kind of keeps it on the QT, and because Compound V is so volatile, very few people are able to survive the treatments. Butcher reveals his powers to the rest of the boys, kind of pissing them off, like, why have you done this to yourself? You're just as bad as Homelander, and that's all true. But they also have the joke with Hughie's powers, revealing that he also stole the last dose for himself. His abilities look like teleporting and super strength. I'm assuming those are the only abilities that he got. The reason why he's naked is because his teleporting ability only allows him to teleport himself, not his clothes. That's why he teleports out of the cast. The whole thing with Hughie getting Compound V powers, they want to make it clear that Butcher did not give him that last remaining vial. Hughie stole it. So remember, they only had 3 and now they don't have any more. They could potentially steal more, but I think the idea is that they're out of Compound V, and now they have to rely on Soldier Boy to try and fight Homelander. And they treat it like it's this bad thing, like potentially he's becoming corrupted. He treats it like he's just taking drugs. He looks like he's kind of high here. But when they reveal what happened to Soldier Boy, if it wasn't clear what really happened to him in the flashbacks, what actually happened is the Russians were able to disable him temporarily, capture him in cryostasis, and I think Stan Edgar might have secretly known about this long term. Like, he's always wanted to play both sides of the aisle, so he allowed the Russians to take Soldier Boy so that he could use that as a reason to get superheroes in the military. Like, oh, you need this Compound V because look at all the superheroes that the Russians have. They're going to take over the world if you don't buy all my Compound V. I already explained his backup power too. It seems like he's able to dampen superhero healing factors because Kimiko will probably eventually heal, but it'll probably just take her way longer to actually heal the damage. With them potentially using that to fight Homelander, like turning off his healing factor so that even though he might be super strong, they can still actually injure him. And even though they tease the boys group is breaking up, like Mother's Milk says, oh, there's no more group anymore, that's probably also just temporary. They just want it to feel like Homelander won the day when really it's just a temporary setback for everyone. When he says he's got something that's going to blow Starlight's mind, it's a reference to the deal he just made with Victoria Newman, helping gain control of the company, and him killing Supersonic, because like I said, they want it to seem like he's won the day. But everyone let me know in the comments, if Soldier Boy is supposed to be like the douchey version of Captain America, how do you think they're going to use him to fight Homelander? And if there are any big Easter eggs in the episode that you spotted that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. My full video for The Boys Season 3 Episode 5 will post next week just like normal. I've also got a couple new Marvel and DC trailers that I'm working on that'll post next. Be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss those. And everyone click here for my Marvel Thunderbolts movie video, and click here for all The Boys Season 3 episodes. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.